There are moments in life when you don't have time to overthink, overplan, or doubt yourself. You just act. And those moments are the ones that change everything. Today, I want to reveal a psychological secret that can switch you from hesitation to action in the exact second you choose it. If you've been stuck, delaying, feeling unmotivated, or trapped in cycles of "I'll start tomorrow," then keep watching. Because once you understand this, you'll never wait for motivation again. You'll know how to create it on demand. And when you learn this, you gain control over the one thing that shapes your entire destiny, your decisions. The mind acts faster when emotion overrides hesitation. Emotion is the engine of instant action. Most people believe that action begins with logic, planning, or discipline. But the truth is far simpler and far more powerful. The human brain moves fastest when emotion becomes stronger than hesitation. Emotion is the internal fuel that bypasses overthinking, silences fear, and pushes you into motion, before your doubts even have time to speak. Think about the moments in your life when you made a decision instantly, without calculating every consequence. Maybe you protected someone you love, grabbed an opportunity, or took a risk that changed your life. In those moments, you weren't following a checklist, you were following an emotional impulse. Emotion creates energy, and energy creates action. Hesitation, on the other hand, thrives on low emotion. When your emotional intensity is weak, the mind immediately tries to keep you safe by analyzing everything, delaying decisions, and amplifying fear. The brain's survival wiring is designed to protect you from the unknown, and hesitation is its easiest tool. That's why even powerful people get stuck. Not because they lack ability, but because their emotional drive is too low to overpower the brain's automatic resistance. But here's the psychological secret. Your brain cannot hold strong emotion and strong hesitation at the same time. One always cancels the other. This means the fastest way to move yourself into massive action is not by forcing discipline, but by raising your emotional intensity. When the emotional desire becomes stronger than the emotional fear, action becomes automatic. This is why people make bold decisions when they feel inspired, confident, excited, or deeply connected to a purpose. Emotion temporarily shuts down the brain's hesitation circuits, making action feel natural, effortless, and inevitable. Motivation may fade, but emotional intensity, when intentionally created, can flip the switch on your behavior instantly. Great achievers don't wait for emotion, they generate it. They use their physiology, focus, and inner language to raise their emotional state until action becomes irresistible. They understand that the mind doesn't move when it is neutral, it moves when it is emotionally charged. So the real key to instant action isn't more thinking, planning, or analyzing, it's activating the emotional force that pushes hesitation out of the way. When emotion rises, hesitation dies, and action begins. Clarity kills procrastination. When the brain knows exactly what to do next, it moves immediately. One of the biggest reasons people fail to take action is not lack of talent, motivation, or opportunity. It is lack of clarity. The mind cannot move confidently towards something it cannot clearly see. When the next step is vague, the brain automatically triggers hesitation, doubt, and delay. This is because uncertainty is interpreted by the brain as a potential threat, and the natural response to threat is to freeze. Procrastination is not always about laziness. In many cases, it is simply the brain saying, "I don't know what to do next," even if the goal is important. People want big results, but they haven't broken the journey into small, concrete, actionable steps. And when the brain tries to jump from where you are to where you want to be in one giant leap, it becomes overwhelmed and shuts down. This is why clarity is a psychological weapon. When you define your next step so clearly that there is no room for confusion, your brain stops resisting and starts cooperating. The mind loves direction, it loves structure, it loves certainty, and when you give it a crystal clear target, something powerful happens. Action becomes automatic. Think about a flashlight versus a laser. A flashlight spreads its light everywhere, scattered and weak. A laser focuses the same light into one direction, sharp, powerful, unstoppable. That's the difference between a mind without clarity and a mind with it. People waste years thinking about goals like, "I want to get fit, I want to start a business, or I want to change my life." These statements are emotionally appealing but practically useless because they lack direction. The brain doesn't know where to start. But when you break it down to a clear next step, walk for 10 minutes today, research one product, create one page, make one call, resistance disappears because the path becomes simple. Clarity doesn't mean knowing every step of the journey. It simply means knowing the next step. When the next step is defined, your brain stops negotiating and starts executing. In the end, procrastination thrives in confusion and dies in clarity. When you tell your brain exactly what to do, it doesn't debate, it acts. Identity shapes behavior. People act fast when the action aligns with who they believe they are. Human behavior is rarely random. Every action you take or refuse to take is deeply connected to the identity you hold about yourself. Identity is the story you tell yourself about who you are, what you deserve, and what you're capable of. And this story quietly controls your decisions far more than motivation or strategy ever will. When your identity supports a certain action, you move toward it naturally and quickly. But when an action contradicts your identity, your mind will resist it, delay it, or sabotage it. This is why two people can have the same goal but completely different outcomes. One sees themselves as someone who succeeds while the other sees themselves as someone who tries. Identity is powerful because it sets the internal standards you live by. A person who believes I'm disciplined acts differently from someone who believes I'm inconsistent. A person who believes I'm a leader behaves differently from someone who believes I'm not good enough. You don't rise to your goals, you fall to your identity. When your identity is weak or unclear, hesitation becomes your default response. The brain cannot take bold action when the inner story says you're not ready, not capable, or not worthy. But the moment your identity shifts, your behavior shifts automatically. You don't have to force action. Action flows from the identity you adopt. This is why people transform rapidly when they change their internal narrative. When someone begins telling themselves, I'm the kind of person who finishes what I start, their choices begin to match that belief. The subconscious mind hates inconsistency. It wants your actions to align with the identity you hold. So if you upgrade your identity, your behavior upgrades with it. Identity is also the reason temporary motivation fails. Motivation pushes you, but identity pulls you. Motivation is emotional. Identity is structural. When you see yourself as someone strong, focused, disciplined, confident, or unstoppable, you begin acting that way automatically because it feels natural. The fastest way to create instant action is to ask a simple but powerful question. Who do I need to be in this moment? Not tomorrow, not eventually, but now. When you pick an identity that aligns with your goals, hesitation loses its power. The brain acts instantly because you're not trying to force behavior, you're expressing who you believe you are. The brain seeks certainty. A strong why gives certainty and eliminates fear. One of the most important truths about human psychology is this. The brain is not designed for success. It is designed for survival. And survival depends on one thing above all, certainty. The brain is constantly scanning for patterns, predictability, and safety. When it senses clarity and purpose, it moves forward. When it senses uncertainty, it freezes. This is why fear and hesitation appear when you are unsure about your why. Without a strong reason behind your actions, your mind interprets the situation as risky or unnecessary. The unknown becomes dangerous, effort feels heavy, and the brain's instinct is to avoid discomfort. But the moment you develop a powerful why, everything changes. When your why is strong, the brain stops worrying about whether you are ready, whether you might fail, or whether you're good enough. Instead, it focuses on one thing, the reason this must happen. A powerful purpose makes the brain feel safe because it understands why movement is necessary, even if the path isn't perfect. Think about moments when people do things they never thought they could. Running into danger to save someone, working day and night for their family, or pushing through impossible challenges for a dream. Logic didn't drive them, fear didn't stop them, their why was stronger than their doubt, their purpose created certainty. When the brain feels certainty, hesitation loses its influence. When the brain feels uncertainty, hesitation becomes dominant. Your why acts like a compass. Even if the path is difficult, it gives direction. Even if the journey is long, it provides energy. Even if the obstacles are heavy, it brings emotional strength. With a weak why, even simple tasks feel impossible. With a powerful why, impossible tasks feel worth it. A strong why also rewires your emotional responses. Instead of associating action with fear, the brain begins to connect action with meaning. And meaning is one of the strongest psychological motivators in human behavior. So if you want the brain to act instantly, don't start with how. Don't even start with what. Start with why is this important? Because when your reason becomes unshakable, your action becomes unstoppable. The secret is state shifting. Changing your emotional and physical state changes your decisions instantly. Human behavior changes the moment your state changes. Your state is the combination of your emotions, thoughts, energy, and physical condition in any given moment. And it is the invisible force deciding whether you take action or stay stuck. You don't act based on what you know, you act based on the state you are in. This is why someone can know exactly what they should do, yet still not do it. Their state is working against them, not with them. A low emotional state creates hesitation. A high emotional state creates momentum. When you're tired, stressed, overwhelmed, or doubtful, decisions feel heavy. Even simple tasks feel difficult. But when you're energized, confident, focused, or inspired, you take action instantly. Nothing changed on the outside, but everything changed on the inside. This internal shift is called state shifting, and it is one of the fastest ways to trigger massive action. The most powerful part of state shifting is that it happens immediately. You don't need days of preparation. You don't need motivation to magically appear. You simply change your emotional and physical state, and your brain responds by changing your behavior. How do you shift your state? You begin with the body. Your physiology is the control panel for your emotions. When you breathe deeply, stand tall, move energetically, or speak with certainty, your brain mirrors those signals and adjusts your emotional state. This is why athletes pump themselves up before competition, why speakers energize their body before walking on stage, and why confident people move with a different kind of presence. The body leads the mind. Next, you shift your focus. The brain can only focus on one meaning at a time. If you focus on fear, you freeze. If you focus on purpose, you move. When you direct your focus toward possibility, progress, or the next step instead of the problem, your emotional state lifts instantly. Finally, you shift your inner language. The words you tell yourself shape the meaning of every situation. Saying, "I can handle this, this matters," or "let's go," creates a peak state that pushes you forward. Saying, "this is too hard," creates a defeated state that holds you back. State shifting is the psychological shortcut to immediate action. When you master your state, you master your decisions. The version of you that takes bold, powerful action is always inside you. It just needs the right state to come alive. Action becomes automatic when the reward feels bigger than the risk. Your internal story controls this balance. Human beings are wired to make decisions based on one simple question: is the reward worth the risk? This calculation happens silently, instantly, and often without conscious awareness. It's a survival mechanism built into the brain. When the perceived reward is greater than the risk, the mind pushes you into action. When the perceived risk feels greater than the reward, the brain slams on the brakes. What's important is that this balance is not based on reality. It's based on the story you tell yourself. Two people can face the same situation, yet one takes bold action while the other hesitates. Why? Because they are telling themselves different internal stories about what the action means, what it will cost, and what it will give them. Your internal story shapes your perception of both risk and reward, and perception shapes behavior. If your inner story says, "this might fail, it's too risky, I don't know enough," the brain interprets the risk as huge, even if the actual danger is small. Hesitation becomes automatic because the mind is trying to protect you. But when your inner story says, "this will change my life, I can handle whatever happens, this matters," the reward becomes emotionally bigger than the fear. And the brain responds by pushing you forward with confidence and urgency. This is why people often take massive action when something becomes meaningful, when the emotional reward shoots up. Think of someone determined to provide for their family, prove something to themselves, or pursue a dream that lights them up. The emotional reward becomes so powerful that the fear becomes irrelevant. The story of why it matters outweighs the story of what could go wrong. The key insight is this: your behavior follows the story you believe, not the facts of the situation. If your story empowers you, you act boldly. If your story scares you, you hesitate. You can change your behavior instantly by changing the story you attach to the action. When the story shifts, the emotional scale shifts. When the emotional scale shifts, the brain moves. And when the brain moves, action becomes automatic. Not forced, not pressured, but natural. In the end, you don't need a different life to act boldly. You need a different story. One where the reward is too meaningful to ignore.